Hi, I'm Chef Christopher Motta, and today I'm going to take you on a culinary journey through the history of my career, a little bit of my personal life, and we're also going to be teaching you some basic knife skills, some cooking techniques, and hopefully by the end of this you'll feel confident to be a better cook in your kitchen. Are we rolling?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you have the availability, I recommend using fresh herbs over dried herbs. Obviously, based on what is available at your supermarket or what's in season, you may not always be able to find fresh herbs, but I find if you have the ability to work with the fresh herbs, it adds a lot of natural freshness to a dish, so you don't have to use a ton of spices. You can really let the rosemary, the oregano, and the thyme speak for itself, and it'll really brighten up a dish. It'll come out on your palate, and it'll really make it quite nice for you. When you're working with fresh herbs, really the only main goal that you have is to remove any stem from the herbs, and then you don't have to mince super fine. It depends on what you're going to do and what your goal is, but with just a light coating of extra virgin olive oil, that will act as a glue to make your fresh herbs stick to your protein. So once we get this all minced up here, we're going to season our lamb. We're going to get the lamb in the pan, and we'll show you how to sear a rack of lamb the proper way. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to sear a rack of lamb, and we're going to do something what I call the lamb lock. It's a really beautiful presentation where you do 2 racks of lamb interlocking with each other, standing up with the bone high in the sky. I have some very nice olive oil here, extra virgin cold pressed olive oil, which I'm going to liberally apply to my lamb here. And once I have the amount to my heart's desire, we're going to come in with some salt. Salt, you can use whatever kind of salt you have. It's always important when you're seasoning with your salt to start high, much higher. You see how my hand is all the way up here, so that we're getting even distributions of salt as it falls down and it spreads. Same thing with our pepper. If I start high, it falls over the lamb evenly. If I start low, what's gonna happen? Only one spot, and we don't want that. We wanna go nice and high, evenly. Once I have enough pepper on here, I prefer a nice hard pepper. It like caramelizes into some of the fat on the lamb. I'm very fond of using cumin on lamb as well. So we have a good old Trader Joe's cumin. You can find it at the Trader Joe's closest to you. And we're gonna get a nice little bit of cumin on here. And I think one of the things that people struggle with, when they're first learning how to cook, is they're afraid of using too much of something. They're afraid of it being too many flavors. Well, I've got a message for everyone out there. Too much flavor is better than none. Here I have something that I made, which is pretty interesting. This is a poblano dust, I'm calling it, and it's green. Because it comes from the poblano pepper. So I take about 10 poblano peppers and I de-seed them, and I take the tops and the bottoms of them off, and then I cut them into little 1/4-inch chunks, and they go into the dehydrator, which is in a different kitchen than we are in today. And once they're nice and hard, I blend them up with a little bit of coriander and a few secret ingredients to make poblano dust. So poblano dust is gonna go over our lamb as well. And also, I think another really pivotal point of cooking is, if you have the time, enjoy it. Get to know what you're working with, get intimate with what you're working with. If you're not on a time constraint, really, revel in that, because having the luxury of time So now we're gonna come in with some fresh rosemary here. And you know, as you can see, not every single piece of my rosemary is minced perfectly, and that's okay. You know, that doesn't make you a bad chef. I could have sat here with my carbon fiber Japanese Damascus steel knife and beat the hell out of this rosemary until it was black. I personally don't, I don't really enjoy when your herbs have been beat up so heavily. So we're gonna get a nice amount of herbs on here, right? Healthy amount. And then we're gonna get this lamb in the pan. All right. So here we have our cast iron pan. I recommend working with cast iron when you're gonna be searing any type of protein. It's the easiest and best way to get the most flavor onto your meat. So right here, we're gonna pour some canola oil right into here, and we'll do a little tester. You know, this is a good way to tell if your pan is too hot, if it's not hot enough. If you pour oil in your pan, I always recommend doing this motion. If you can see this, I'm coating the pan with a very light thin layer, and I want every part of the pan to be shimmering and sheening like a patent leather shine. And so I'm gonna add just a bit more. Again, you don't need a ton of fat to caramelize your meat. And since these lambs are gonna go, these racks of lamb are gonna go into the oven as well, we're just looking to get color. We're just looking to get color on the lamb, and then we're going to pop it into the oven. So here we go, we've got our first rack of lamb, and she's gonna go into the pan right now. Oh yeah, hear that sizzle. That's the sound of happiness right there. So now you can manipulate your temperature. You can bring it up a little higher, you can bring it up a little lower. I'm fanning out the rack of lamb here to show you. I'm pressing it down. The loin is down here, so you want that to cook, you know, to get like a nice hard sear. That's the goal here. And then we're gonna eventually flip it on its side, and the fat in between the ribs are going to cook. So once I'm happy with where this is at, I'm just gonna make sure that all sides, and you can see, you know, the great thing is you can lift it up. I'm very comfortable cooking with my hands. A lot of people are not, because fire is dangerous and you could burn yourself, but I feel very comfortable and safe with this. So you can see, like, now you're getting some beautiful caramelization towards on the end here. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to push it away from me in case there's any splatter or anything like that. It will go away from you and not towards you. Anytime you put a piece of meat into the pan or a piece of fish into a pan, you should always be laying it away from you. So if you get any splatter, it will go that way, not this way. So now we're gonna get our second piece of lamb into the pan here. And same process. Again, we're looking for even distributions of heat. We don't want our pan screaming hot, because then you're gonna char the lamb, and that would not be good, because then it can be a little bit burnt and a little bit bitter and undesirable. And so now, kind of like my favorite part, do the lamb dance here, and one comes this way and the other one goes the other way. And then, you know, if you feel like maybe you need a little bit more oil, you probably do. So, you know, you just come in here with a little bit of oil, and you know, I always tell people with oil, with you're cooking with fat or anything like that, it's really important, really important, to just use as much as you need. You know, don't start with a whole bunch. You know, if you're frying a chicken, okay, you need a lot of oil, but you know, just use exactly the amount that you need. So same thing here. I'm fanning my rack of lamb out and showing it off to you so that you can see the way that the color is changing there. You can see you're getting a lot of caramelization on the lamb. And then, you know, I can feel this pan getting hot. So again, I'm gonna lower the heat on the pan right there. I brought it down maybe 2 or 3 notches, because you don't want the pan to become so screaming hot, because then you're gonna get smoke point, and you know, that's how something can light on fire, and that would not be any good. No good. It wouldn't be good. So here we go. I'm gonna move my pan like this, and while these guys are getting to know each other in there, I'm just gonna wash my hands off. Guys, it's very important one of the very first rules of cooking is after you touch raw protein, you have to wash your hands because you want to be sanitary. You want to be very sanitary always, especially when you're working in a wonderful kitchen like this one. So here we go. We can get in here. My faithful cameraman today. He's doing a great job. And you can see, like right here, the lamb is still very raw there. You know, it's still very raw, and that's what you want, especially since this lamb is going to be going into the oven. So now, if you come over here this way, I'm going to teach you a little trick of the trade, and we're going to do a small bit of cleanup here, because number one important rule of the kitchen is that you keep the mess in its place, which is the small and short way of mise en place, which is the rules of the kitchen. Everything has its place. So we're just going to get that over the top of the lamb. And then I have an onion somewhere and some garlic over here. And here we're going to go over some very basic skills here. So with my fingers pulled in here, so there's no danger of me maybe cutting my finger off, I'm going to cut my onion in half, and you'll see this is great that this is happening because a lot of people, you know, they get very worked up while they're cooking, and there's no reason to. You can just make sure your board is nice and clean. It's part of the natural order of things that as you work with an onion, you know, the little skin will fall off there, and it's okay. It's no big deal. So we're taking the tops and bottoms off this onion, and maybe later we'll go over how to properly mince an onion. But for now, for this application, we're gonna just cut in half, and like this, right? And then the same thing with this in half, and then like this. This is a perfect application for cutting an onion when you're roasting meat in a pan like this. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring our lamb, which has a beautiful color on it, and you can see, like, look at that nice caramelization. And this is a technique that I don't know if I've coined the phrase yet. You know, I don't want to say that I did, but this is what I call lamb locking. And you can see why. It's a beautiful way to present lamb. Once again, I'm just giving my hands a quick rinse to make sure that I'm not getting too dirty. And we're keeping things nice and sanitary. So here I'm going to take this onion that I chopped and make sure you can get all these little bits from the onion, and you don't want them in there. And we're just going to put the onion around the lamb. And what this is going to do is it's going to lend a lot of natural flavor to the lamb while it continues to cook in the oven. And it'll also actually help the lamb stay up like this, which is the goal. We're gonna get some garlic in the pan as well. I hope everyone's having a good day today because this is a very exciting moment for me to be filming in such a wonderful kitchen, such a beautiful day from the greatest city in the world, New York City. And so, we've got our garlic. Garlic's going in. You know, you don't want too much. You know, too much garlic is never a good thing. You know, we're not fighting any vampires here today. So, you know, a couple of cloves of garlic is more than enough, and we're going to get that in the pan. And then I'm just going to show you this beautiful rack of lamb here. You can get the camera in there a little tighter. Still, we're like fully, all you're doing is you're getting color on the outside of this lamb. This side is quite desirable. And at this point, I'm going to put the lamb into the oven. And I'm going to figure out how to open this oven. There we go. Got it open. It's like quite the production. There we go. And it's going to go into the oven. I'm going to let my faithful camera friend here get a nice tight angle on that. And we're going to come back to this in a little bit after it's cooked for 35 to 40 minutes. We're going to check on our lamb with our internal thermometer, and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back. So I'm going to pull my lamb out of the oven right now, and as you can see, it's gotten a beautiful caramelization on it. This is exactly what you're looking for out of the oven here. So We're gonna let this rest inside the pan while we go over to the other side and start preparing our scallops. And then I'm gonna teach you how to plate like a pro. Hello again. So now we're gonna go over how to plate a beautiful dish once you have all of your components ready to go. So here I have a wonderful smoked cauliflower puree. I made this by poaching the cauliflower in heavy cream. And once I pureed it in my Vitamix, I added a little bit of smoke essence, which is something that I make from hickory smoked salt. And I use a little bit of white pepper as well in there to give it up, just kick it up a little tiny bit. You could also use liquid smoke, but that's a much stronger flavor. And some people find it to be a little bit too harsh or, overbearing, overpowering. So you're gonna get this this puree down on the plate, and just like that, I like to do something along the lines of that. And then we're gonna bring our lamb over here, and we're just gonna show you this beautiful. So I just cut the rack in half. You'll notice it looks slightly different than you remembered. And I'm gonna move it over here onto the plate like so, and it's gonna stand up and stay really, really beautiful. And then using my hands, I'm gonna move my scallops in a nice little row, and I'm going to ever so gently pick out the most beautiful ones, and we're gonna just say that is a plate. So again, we're presenting here for you folks at the office, beautiful lamb-locked, pan-seared scallop. Hi, I'm Chef Christopher Motta. I'm a New York City native, and I've been cooking professionally in New York City since 2009. I'm here to tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm passionate about cooking. My culinary journey started at the tender age of 10 years old. Unfortunately, when I was a little boy, my mother passed away, lost her battle with cancer in 2001 when I was only 10 years old. My mom fought Hodgkin's disease for 10 long years to see me grow up into the young man that I became at age 10. And food was very important to my mother, Donna. She was Cuban and Colombian, so she had a lot of those natural Latin flavors going around her in the kitchen. Always there was beautiful aromas of food, and she was really quite an amazing cook. She was also quite talented. She was a talented ballerina. She graduated Juilliard in 1983. She was an accomplished ballerina and danced with Martha Graham and Alvin Ailey and some of the greats in the ballet world here in New York City. I thought that I was going to become an actor to make mom proud, and I studied acting here in the city after I graduated high school. And I did some work with the Espers at the William Esper Studio, and acting didn't really work out for me. And I was really upset, and I was down, and I really wanted acting to become a career. Unfortunately, I felt that it wasn't progressing the way I wanted it to. So I decided I was gonna take 1 year off from acting, and I was gonna go to culinary school. I found myself at the info desk at ICE here in Manhattan, which was located at 23rd Street, where the famous Eataly is. In 2009, I registered myself for a condensed program at Institute of Culinary Education, better known as ICE. It's the same curriculum they teach there as they teach in the CIA up in Hyde Park, which is a very famous school. If you are interested in the culinary arts and becoming a chef like me, you could go there, or you could go to ICE, or you could go to Johnson & Wales. You could go to a lot of different culinary schools, but I chose ICE. And I did a condensed 12-month program, double long days. I believe I got there at 6 a.m. and we were done at 5 or 6 p.m. And that was a big learning curve for me because, coming from an acting background and going to a culinary, being forced into this world of the culinary arts, it can be quite militant sometimes, especially at that period of time in 2009. things were a little different than they are now. And I was not used to the yes chef, and no excuses, and you were just expected to produce. However, I prevailed and graduated 2009, and I learned all of the basics that one needs to become a professional chef. And so from there, I found myself doing my internship at Trump Tower, which I did not enjoy, and that did not pan out to be a very desirable place to work. So I was just 19, 20 years old, and I didn't know so much about cooking. I didn't know so much about being a professional in the culinary field, because I had devoted all my time and efforts to studying theater and becoming a young thespian and performing. So it was a bit of a culture shock, but we got there eventually. And after I decided what I didn't want to do, I was just trying to find what avenue was I going to go down to, which part of this culinary world was I going to fit in. And it's very difficult when you're young and you have no experience and you're looking for a job in the greatest city in the world, NYC, because all anyone wants to know is how talented you are. Can you be trained? Will you be willing to learn? Will you say yes? Will you say no? So that was an interesting time in my life. It was difficult, and I found myself at the most wonderful place in the entire world. Still to this day, my favorite job I ever had in a kitchen. I found Applewood, which was located on 7th Avenue, 501 7th Avenue in Park Slope, Brooklyn. It was a very small, quaint, lovely, charming restaurant that had a roaring fireplace. It was 40 seats soaking wet, and you felt that you were part of something special when you were at Applewood, because Applewood, yes, there could be a celebrity next to you, there could be, the list of VIPs we had there were quite extensive, but that's not what this video is about at all. And that's really where I learned the importance of biodynamic food, self-sustainable food. Working with local produce is probably, people always ask me, Chris, what's your favorite restaurant? Chris, what's your favorite dish? Chris, what's the best food to eat? And I tell them it's more I could tell you anything. I could tell you what I like, but it's more about discovering what's important to you, because you will like what you like more than I will. I discovered the mentality and the philosophy of the importance of eating local, sustainable produce, working with produce and animals that have been raised and grown in your area. I was almost completely naive to the idea of what farm to table style cooking was, because I was only 20 years old and this was my first real job as a chef and as a line cook, So what did that mean? I was eating a lot of the first things I've ever had. I had rabbit there for the first time. I had duck there for the first time, and we were writing menus daily. Applewood, one of the most special things about Applewood really was that every day, the line cooks would show up and we'd work together as a team, and we'd write a new menu every single day based on local sustainable produce that was coming in mystery boxes. And we would actually barter. Somebody would say, okay, well, I want the kale. And if I wanted the kale, we'd have to trade for rainbow carrots. And it may sound silly, but it was a really, really wonderful working environment. And I was taught almost everything I know today in the kitchen at Applewood. I learned how to braise meat. I learned how to bake bread. I learned how to make ice cream. I learned how to say yes, chef. I learned how to create dishes and balance flavors. Everybody talks about, they always ask me, like, what is the best way? Like, how do you balance flavors? And usually the answer is it's a mixture of salt, acid, heat, fat. And those are like those key words. Those are the big key words you hear from people, right? And it's about finding the harmony amongst those things, the salt, the acid, the heat, the fat, and finding how they work together. And the only way you can achieve that is by doing it over and over and over and over again. And eventually you get pretty good at it. So that's a little tip about trying to find the balance of a dish. So after 6 years of Applewood, I devoted my career to becoming the best chef I could, and we rotated stations, which was also quite unique. Not a lot of restaurants were doing that. Still to this day, a lot of restaurants don't do that. So you'd work the grill station for 2 months or so, and then you'd be switched over to the fish station, and then you'd be switched over to the pastry station, and then you'd be switched over to the expo station. And what I found that was really beneficial about that is it kept everyone on their toes, because it's easy to become a one-act, a one-trick pony and do the same thing day in and day out. And I'm the grill man, I'm the fish man, I'm the garde-manger man. But it kept everyone on their toes, and working for David Shea and Laura Shea, who owned that business, was definitely one of the more formidable parts of my career. After 6 long years of learning everything there was to really be learned, I was lucky enough to get my first executive chef job here in the big city at the tender age of 24 years old at a restaurant called Lily's Victorian Establishment. And I worked in the heart of the theater district, learning the opposite side of the business. So first we were doing very high-end, sustainable, farm-to-table, passionate, intimate food. Very delicately arranged. Plating was of the utmost importance. And then I switched gears and I went for the masses. Feeding the masses in New York City also taught me how to learn how to kind of master the other side of what this is, because there's 2 main things when you have to become a chef, right? There's the food. You have to make sure that A, you're good at cooking. And then I think that this is the easier part for me. Making the food that tastes good is the part that I enjoy. It's the part that brings joy to others. It's the whole reason why I do what I do. I really love sharing recipes, sharing cooking techniques with my friends and family and coworkers, because I think to cook is to share. 2 main important parts of becoming a chef. There's cooking the food, and the other one is you have to become a savvy businessman. You have to become somebody who can formulate costs. You have to be able to rein a staff. You have to be able to train a staff. You have to be able to hire a staff. You have to be able to have the staff respect you. You have to show up on time. You can never be late. You have to lead by example. And if you do all of those things, and the food is good, very important part, the food has to be good. If the food's not good, you just, maybe switch careers. I'm not sure. But those are the 2 most important parts about being a chef. And eventually, I mastered the second part of becoming a savvy businessman, believe it or not. Hi, I'm Chef Christopher Motta, and I'm here to take you on a culinary journey through my career as a professional chef, and also a little bit about my personal life. So, where to begin? 2009. I graduated ICE with a degree in culinary arts. After that, I found myself working at a phenomenal, wonderful, still to this day, my favorite restaurant job I ever had in the entirety of all of my career at Applewood, located in Park Slope, Brooklyn, which was a wonderful restaurant where I learned how to cook things that were local, organic, things that I was really excited about. Things of that nature. And then after that, after 6 long years of honing my skills, learning how to make bread and ice cream and write menus, and also really understand the complexity of different flavors and how textures work and how textures don't work together. After 6 years at Applewood, I got my very first job as an executive chef here in the theater district at a place called Lily's Victorian Establishment. And that was also a wonderful experience. I was there for 4 to 5 years as the executive chef, and kind of learned the opposite side of the business of how to feed the masses in the middle of Times Square and the hustle and the bustle of New York City. It was a widely challenging position, especially because I was at the tender age of 24 years old. And after that, the world shut down because of the global health pandemic, which I'm sure you might be familiar with. little thing called coronavirus. It was really funny. It was really not funny. It was very sad. Unfortunately, because of the coronavirus and the pandemic, I then lost my job, which I had worked my entire career for, and it wasn't my fault. But I decided I wasn't going to be stopped there, and I rebranded myself to become a private chef. And I have had the pleasure of working here in New York City in the likes of some of the most beautiful places in New York City, cooking meals specifically for dietary reasons, religious reasons, everything from a cocktail party to a nice soiree for the family. I've been very fortunate to work as a private chef and continuing working as a private chef as long as people will have me in their home here in New York City. Along the way, we've taken some breaks. I've opened up 2 restaurants from zero, which is quite possibly, I think, what it means to be a chef, really. What it means to be a chef, opening a restaurant, staffing a restaurant, executing the tastings from to completely creating the menu and then training a staff, and it's a very large undertaking. So I was part of opening John McDonald's The Smith Tavern in Tribeca. I was the opening chef there. That was a project I worked on for a little under 8 months. After that, I opened up Julie Reiner's Milady's in Soho, and that was a really wonderful experience. And in just a few short months, I'm going to be opening what will be my 3rd restaurant, full from zero, which will be located on St. Mark's Place with a new expanding restaurant group, which I am not allowed to disclose which one it is, but it's going to be very exciting. So that's a little bit about my career, the things I've done. Hello everyone, welcome back to my cutting board. We are going to be working on a little bit of like a tabbouleh couscous salad to be one of the pairings with our rack of lamb and our beautiful diver scallops, which are right here. I'm going to teach you a little trick. There's a little membrane on the side of each of the scallop, and if you don't remove it, it gets quite chewy and undesirable. We'll get there just in a second, but I'm going to bring you back to the cutting board, and I want my faithful cameraman to get his phone in here. Here we go. So you can see right here I have a wonderful mixture of micro couscous. I have a little bit of chopped tomato. There's some fresh dill in here. I have, it's very parsley forward because that's how this salad traditionally is made. And I'm just cutting some lemons here, and I'm going to squeeze the juice. You'll notice that I cut the lemons in this fashion. This is a trick that somebody taught me many years ago. So you can see I made kind of a log, and that might be kind of unfamiliar to you. And the reason is that all the seeds are in the center of the lemon, right? So if you cut just along the edges, right, and you make wedges like this, I can squeeze this entire lemon into my bowl of product here, and I don't have to worry about a seed ever getting in there. So that's a cute little trick for you at home, and I hope you enjoyed that. So we can just keep going, no need to pan away. Now we've got some nice like lemon juice in here, right? And let's see if I can do this at the same time. This is like, I'm new to this, but it has been my lifelong dream to one day maybe have a cooking show. We'll see. We're gonna take a little bit of our extra virgin olive oil, and that'll help kind of like give everything a sheen, like Martin Sheen, Charlie Sheen. And I'm gonna mix this olive oil. So these are both cold pressed olive oils. I know you the viewers at home, you're familiar with this product because everyone's going gaga for this stuff. It's called the Drizz, okay? Very good. This one I'm a little bit more partial to. This is a product you can find at your local Eataly, and also Sicilian cold pressed olive oil. This is organic, this is biodynamic, this is what a chef uses. And we're gonna drizzle just a little bit, you see, just a very little bit. And then I'm gonna take my pepper mill here. We're just gonna add some love into this bowl. And then I'm going to It's a very important thing here, you know, guys, is when you're cooking, you have to taste as you go, right? Because then we'll know, does it need a little more salt? Does it need a little bit more acid? Does it need a little bit more heat? If you don't taste as you go, how do you know what's happening in there? You know, you have to know. You have to know what's happening. If I get to serve food to Gordon Ramsay, I'm going to be doing a lot of tasting before I give him something. Not bad. Hi there. Welcome back to the kitchen. So we've got some wonderful, massive diver scallops here, and I'm going to teach you a little trick, another little trick. So on the side of every scallop here, there's this little membrane, and if you don't remove it from the scallop, what happens is it gets very hard and almost rubbery. And if you're somebody who enjoys scallops like myself, the worst thing ever is when you get a scallop that is overcooked and it's nasty and rubbery, or if it's like tremendously undercooked. You don't want that either. So I've had it happen a few times where these aren't removed, and when the scallop's presented to the guest, and it's just, you know, you should never serve something to a guest that you wouldn't enjoy yourself. So this is a little trick. It's a small trick. If you go to culinary school, they should teach you this. I don't think they taught me this. I think I learned this when I was in the school of the hard knocks at Applewood. But you can see it just takes a small moment or two, and all of these can be discarded as they are less than desirable. All right, so we're back to our scallops. We're getting some nice color in this pan, which I'm happy with. So now I'm going to drop heaping, maybe we'll call that maybe 4 hefty tablespoons of our Calabrian chili butter. And what we want to do is just let it melt through and through. And what's going to do is, you're going to be able to smell how wonderful this is. It has the wonderful scent of garlic and herbs, and the Calabrian chili will give it just a hint of heat, which we're looking for as well. And then I'm gonna use my spoon. Many people would say that you need to you should use a spatula for this, but I don't like to use spatulas for this because we might get a nice flambe here. We might not. Nope, it's okay. Whenever you add alcohol to a pan, folks, you're going to want to make sure that you're standing away from it, and because it is plausible that the alcohol will cause a nice flambe, which I was hoping would happen, and it did not. But that's okay. So 90% of cooking professionally is learning how to deal with problems and then reverse the problems. Because we're somewhere where you're happy with it. So that's one of the first lessons that you need to learn. Here, I'm gonna learn this fucking stick. So right now we're basting the scallop, and basically what that means is I'm angling my pan towards me, and I'm using the liquid to continue to cover and coat my scallops. You can see they've got a really nice, beautiful sear on them, and this is going to add a lot of natural flavor to the scallop. Hi there, welcome back to the kitchen. So right now I have here a smoked cauliflower puree, which I made by poaching the cauliflower in heavy cream, and then I added a smoke essence to it using a hickory smoked sea salt. You could use liquid smoke, but some people will tell you that that's a little, it can be, some find it to be a little offensive. So I'm gonna get down the C on the plate, which is kind of like my signature thing, because I believe that food should be as wonderful to look at as it is to be enjoyed. So that's down, and now we're going to use just a nice healthy scoop of our tabbouleh here, right? A little fresh Mediterranean salad. We're gonna get her down on the plate. This is like a wonderful thing to have if you enjoy light, bright flavors. And then you'll remember our lamb from before. We just cut it in half, okay? And I'm kind of just gonna stand it up on its own and make sure that it's sturdy enough to stay standing up, like so. And then I'm going to move our scallops along the outer edge of the ring. It's nice to place scallops on top of a puree because with every bite that you enjoy, it'll get a little bit of that scallop flavor. Scallop flavor being enhanced by the puree. Again, this is our dish that I'm going to present to you right now. And this is a lamb lock, beautiful lamb done with a smoked cauliflower puree, Calabrian chili sea scallop, and a light and bright tabbouleh salad. I hope you've enjoyed cooking in the kitchen with Chef Chris, and I will be showing you this for the last time.